Anthony Todd Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. We are a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host Trevor, aka J-Rock broke into my house last night and talked to me about the birds and the bees, aka Freddie Gibbs from iCarly, aka somebody's cold one tried to give me some pills. My dare officer would be very disappointed. And I'm joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, Vincent.
AKA, the Little Yachty rap snacks, I'm pretty sure, are just cardboard that are painted red. That's it. They taste like ass. They just taste like complete
You took them out of the bag and put them in another bag.
Yeah, because
like
I didn't...
2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
that's probably why they don't taste good.
No, initially they tasted like ass. Okay, so Trevor bought me rap snacks because they had Little Yachty on them. And I'm like, cool, this is a cool gift. We'll put it on the board, which is not there because I had to take it down because I ran out of anything. But I was like, oh, this be a cool set piece, some Little Yachty rap snacks. And I'm like, oh, I bet these taste good because they make sense because Little Yachty has like red hair and it looks like basically a hot Cheeto. So let's taste these. Oh no, they taste like cardboard with some red flakes on it. And I was like, I really only enjoyed the bag out of this. So I put the bag out so we could frame it. We had it up last week. And then I took it away and I put the snacks and I gave some to my dad and my dad was like, these are fucking disgusting. And then I threw them out because no one would eat them.
I got it for the bag, not the actual food. This is episode 46 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Please Donate to Our GoFundMe to get Cool Keith out of the retirement home.
He's old, he's withered, and he's in the retirement
We've
home.
got to get him out.
We gotta go get
him. I gotta go get him. He's wasting away, and I think he's still got like a couple months left on him. This week, in relation to that, we're going to be talking about, do old artists have important things to say, as well as comeback albums. Recently I saw an article that was talking about, they call them, what do they call them? Graybeards in hip-hop, talking about like Jay-Z and Kanye and Nas all releasing albums pretty recently, and whether or not these albums had anything to say, and whether or not there is a place for old artists in the realm of rap music. This is, of course, following the death of XXXTentacion, who was only, like 19, 20 when he died. So a lot of people are saying that, like, this death hit way harder than somebody's death like Phife Dawg in 2016, because the young people, or young artists, kind of have a death grip on the hip-hop scene right now. Yeah. Not including Death Grips, they're like 50. I actually don't know how old Death Grips are.
MC Ride's probably like 60.
He's an old guy.
He just works out a bunch because, like, when you're just punching the wall constantly out of pure frustration,
over anything.
I
feel like MC Ride is the kind of guy that would get really frustrated if his coupon didn't work or something. It's like, and then he would go home and write a song about it.
Like a week ago, me and Trevor went to Fazoli's, which is like this like a Italian restaurant, and like I had this coupon. It literally took him 20 minutes to figure out how the fucking coupon worked. I bet if MC Ride was in my scenario, like, I was cool. I was like, okay, this is like, as long as it works, I don't care because I have this coupon. It's valid. Like,
yeah,
I don't have problems with it, but like, MC Ride, if he was my position, he'd probably just like he would be doing that move Bane does to break Batman's spine, like just lift him up and break him over his kneecap.
Except it would be the entire restaurant of Fazoli's.
You just punch everything.
And all their dishes.
You just scream, go, ah! Ah!
Then he would make a song sampling like
Fazoli's over an 80s action movie score with some random keys thrown all over the place that have nothing to do with anything. Looking at you, Little Richard, in the fucking fear.
Haha. But yeah, this article is talking about X and how his music is going to stand up and be more important in the future than somebody's like Kanye's or Jay-Z. And it really got me thinking, I guess, about older artists or artists that are, I guess, not getting pushed out of the spotlight, but are having to share the spotlight with a lot of young artists, because young artists are always coming, and older artists are trying to maintain that spot. And I guess whether or not they have maintained the spot is very much so like up to viewer discretion. Yeah. To me, I think that a lot of older artists have maintain their spot really well. I think Kanye being the prime example of this. We talk about Kanye all the time on the show because he has an incredible like back catalog, and he's continuing to make relevant music even now in the present. You look at The Life of Pablo from 2016, his credits on Ye from 2018, as well as Kids See Ghost, production on Pusha T, Tiana Taylor, Nissan Altima.
That's my favorite.
That's a great album.
That's when Nas is like stuck in a Nissan Altima and he can't get out because all the doors are locked.
But that was actually a setup because people wanted him to stay in there. But yeah, I think that Kanye, being specifically, has a lot of things to say. But I think that a lot of artists are kind of falling off the wagon a little bit. You look at Jay-Z on the Carter's album. You look at him on 444 from last year. I feel like Jay-Z is still falling into like a lot of the same traps that he fell into back when he was younger.
Yeah, it's a lot of the youthfulness, I think, is still inside Jay-Z, and like not the good parts. Not like the energy or the almost like fresh mind that hip hop needs. It's more of the just like immaturity. And like that comes through with a lot of the braggadocio. It really is immature.
Yeah.
And, like that's coming from like two white guys that are like 20, but like there's not a lot of consistency. A lot of you look at 444 and it feels, we've talked about this a bunch of times before, but it feels kind of like forced, the message that he's trying to do. And when you get topics like the story of OJ, that's something that's very passionate to him, and he comes through with his persona, and it works. But like I think Jay-Z has a troubled time of not making either his persona speak, or when he wants to be kind of like a Sean Carter actual person type, when he wants to display his true feelings, he just kind of fails. So it's like this balance of he can't do persona or this, and persona or reality in a sense. And that's something you expect him to figure out now because he's in a later stage of life. You think he would figure himself out more, but it feels like he just more or less hasn't.
I guess to me, what it's boiled down to is whether or not it's not whether or not how old the person is physically. It's how creative their mind still is. Which a lot of artists, as they get older, become more and more creative. Prime example, not even being in music, Pablo Picasso. His art just got way and way more creative and out there and surreal as time went on. You look at his self-portrait from when he was 20 versus his self-portrait when he was like, what, 76 or something? His style is so different. You wouldn't even recognize himself out of the later self-portrait. But I think it has to do with how sharp your mind is. I'm thinking of a lot of different artists that have either really rose to the occasion or kind of fallen. Some that are fallen, Nas, talked about him a couple weeks ago with Nasir. I just can't believe that that's like what he's been working on all this time. And he comes out and tries to be sort of relevant, with the political climate, and it just ends up being
generic and like not someone that you would think would be making that would be almost like a has-been in a sense after making Illmatic.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that fall from grace still kind of surprises me of how can you maybe here and not be like at least here or at least here, like better, a little bit worse, a little bit better, but like you're in the pit.
It just seems like his introspect is supposed to increase as you get older. You're supposed to become more aware of like what's going on around you, or better at describing your feelings, or better at describing things in general. But I feel like his deliverance of like life on the streets back when he made Illmatic in '94 is way more introspective than anything he's come out with anytime recently. Another artist comes to mind, Eminem, with Revival from last year, one of the worst albums of the year. And
see, with him, it was a loss of almost like youthful spark, I guess. And his flow's still good, but now he's at a point where Eminem's always been like pretentious and stupid and edgy, but now he's pretentious, stupid, and edgy. But he's old. He doesn't like. He's trying to defend himself in a sense, and that's never been like something Eminem's really tried to ever do before, I guess.
He's always been unapologetic,
and now it's just like, oh, this is like I'm not a has-been. Here are my credentials of why I'm not a has-been. But just because you're showing us this proves that you kind of don't have everything figured out, or that the fact that you are a has-been because you are attempting to provide an argument of why you're not.
He's living in the past, pretty much. I mean, I think that's just like very disappointing.
Yeah.
Cool Keith on, well, I guess Dr. Octagon as a group altogether, but namely Cool Keith, because I think the production on that album was still fun.
Yeah.
But Cool Keith as a rapper, we joke about him all the time, but I feel like he lost some of his spark as well, and that I think ultimately comes down to if he can hang with the kind of the same people that are in his genre now. I think every rapper kind of has like their own niche or their own fan base, and other rappers that kind of follow in suit of that. Cool Keith was like very out there fans. Dr. Octagon Ecologist was groundbreaking for just how like weird and abstract and grotesque it was, and it drew like a lot of fans from doing that. And he comes out with Moose Bumps, the first project from the Dr. Octagon name in forever, and since that debut album, there's been a lot that's changed in that field.
He's still doing the same stuff, and not only has he not matured, but the world, since he hasn't, but the world has. It's really weird because like we've gone further down the rabbit hole of experimental hip hop, or even like genres like art rap or like industrial hip hop merging. So now there's like a whole bunch of different eras. There's more introspective hip hop that is a little bit more weird, more absurd. Art rap and artists like Quelly Chris, Open Mike Eagle. Then you got like stuff that is completely insane, nonsensical, Death Grips clipping. Like there's
9 Inch Nails.
like artists that are doing weirder stuff than him, and Cool Keith's entire niche was being innovative and weird. And since the fact that he still is solid at providing things, but he doesn't really have any fresh ideas, and he's kind of rehashing a bit of the old shtick, doesn't make it as effective.
I think David Byrne does the same thing on American Utopia. Back when Talking Heads was big, he was super innovative.
Yeah.
Some of his like riffs, his iconic riffs, iconic lines, and his like just screechy voice.
Yeah.
Very token everything. He innovated and pioneered this like type of new wave music, and he comes back with a solo record last year, American Utopia.
This year.
It was this year?
Yeah, you don't remember? That was like 4 months ago. It's been a long year, so I can't.
It really has.
Yeah. But
it's been about 7 months. Wow.
But it's been like I personally enjoyed it, but I think there was also nothing. I think this is another part. We can mention all these artists and how they keep on doing this, but I think it's just like the fact that I think you continually need to challenge yourself, and even if you fall flat on your face, I think it's okay. Like, I think if you at least constantly try to innovate or self-improve, even like your worst records, which aren't gonna be good because you just didn't, all the elements weren't there, you can eventually mature that into something that's worthwhile. But as long as you're constantly improving, like Kanye with Yeezus, we're not biggest fans on there, but there's elements in that he did took the Life Pablo, the weirdness and strangeness, and a lot of the sampling techniques,
and he built on that.
And there's, as long as you, and even like something, a younger artist, Tyler Creator with Cherry Bomb, he took a lot of the jazz instrumentation, a lot of the kind of the having a bunch of features, having other people do things, and kind of living in the background a little bit. Took that in Flower Boy. So as long as you can have a bad record and it's completely fine, but as long as you mature on past mistakes and are trying to further evolve as an artist, I think that's kind of what it makes it. I don't think it's whether or not old artists should be concerned whether they fit in or whether they should be making music, as long as it's everyone continually, young or old, progresses to experiment and evolve as artists.
Yeah, because I think like young artists still have to be held to the same standards as older artists, as long as they constantly mature and make new things. You know, I mean, these like SoundCloud rappers now.
Yeah.
If they don't mature and not like mature as a person, but if their sound doesn't continue to evolve and they don't continue to make strides towards something different, then they're gonna get stale.
Yeah.
And they're gonna kind of fall into the same fate as somebody like Nas. Nas's bad record is not completely okay. It's not completely fine because he doesn't even try. There's no attempts to make things better on his album. versus like Kanye's Yeezus that we didn't really care for, you know. He still made strides to improve on himself. I feel like Nas has not. Eminem has not.
And it's the problem is they never had to before, and I don't think the monetary value of their work never forced them to, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because sometimes you can get a comeback record that is really good. But like, even like I'd say like Tribe Called Quest, like I love their last record, Thank You for Your Service. I thought it was incredible, but also they like didn't mature. Like it still hold up, the art still hold up, and it was really necessary. But if you look at it, they're still making the same music they did when they were like in their 20s. Like it's,
I think it has a different spin and an opinion on it though, because obviously the members of Tribe Called Quest have gotten older and ventured out and done other things, but you know, came back together one last time. The lyrics that they wrote on Thank You for Your Service are nowhere near as well, I should say they are I think years beyond like what they would have written on Midnight Marauders or Low End Theory, you know. Those albums were made when they were younger, and so they had a younger worldview, and now their worldview, I feel, has increased a lot, and they have continued to just gain experience out there. I think there are some artists that just haven't tried to gain experience at all. Kool Keith, like, what has he really done like the past few years? I feel like he has not continually like tried to better himself, but I think the members of A Tribe Called Quest have all tried to get better at their craft in the period between albums. Like even though they broke up for a time, they still went off and did their own solo ventures in music still. I found that like a lot of underground, dare I say, or lesser known artists or lesser well received artists in the mainstream have continued to do better with comeback albums, like De La Soul 2016. Their album had flaws in it, but I think that their worldview increased a lot, and it was miles beyond some of the others.
It was a very different sound, even though like I don't think it's like a very solid record, because it is kind of all over the place. But like you listen to the amount of like features and the amount of sounds they're kind of going for, it is different. Like moments like Snoopy with David Byrne, like why is this a thing? Like I enjoy it, but like, and then they have like moments with what is it, the track with Estelle, that's very beautiful and grandscaping, and then like we're not in that like era of like 80s 90s hip hop anymore where it's kind of bumping. It's like something new. It's more grand, and it's an era of like post like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy where like that's
production was taking a whole new level.
So I think they were at least adapting in a sense. They evolved, but it's not really innovative, I guess. Which I can give them credit for, because at least they're changing it up, even though they did not come up with something new. But
and then last example of that, Doom with Czarface on Metal Face Meets Czarface from this year. Doom, I think, did that really well with, because I don't think his style has changed. I think his style and just absurdist rhymes and clever rhyme tricks that he does are still the same old Doom that we had back in 2004, 2005, growing up through all of his discography. But I think that his production that he surrounded himself with and the features that he worked with really just put a huge spotlight on him again. I think in some of his later efforts, like later in his discography, things just were not going as planned for him. And then I found this like turnaround with West Side Gun, or I guess West Side Doom, or working with Dabrai. And then of course like the full length album, he's just working with better people now, working with more talented production, and it just gives him a chance to shine again. I think that's awesome to see these types of artists that weren't doing well for a little bit kind of come back. That's just like phenomenal. They're finding their niche again, they're finding their crowd, and they're keeping their old fans that they still had. Like Doom is still the old Doom that I know and love, you know. So I guess back to the original question, do old artists have important things to say?
I think it doesn't, like, I never thought it was a matter of do all artists have important things to say, as it was a matter of, I guess, does anyone have anything important to say, in a sense, old or young, because I think regardless of who you are, you can manage to fall real flat, regardless. Like, Lil Pump, we talk about him, we praise him for being kind of stupid and fun and goofy and kind of almost a perfection of like a trap style, for better or for worse. Basically a condensing of the trap style into something that's like a 2-minute track. And I think if he keeps on, like, I enjoy his latest tracks, I enjoy Sked It and Drug Addicts, but I don't think, like, this is a long-term career, I guess, if he keeps on doing the same thing over and over again. And I could even say the same for Brockhampton. They released the Saturation Trilogy last year. But if they just keep out releasing the Saturation Trilogy, it's gonna get old real quick.
Yeah.
Because, like, those are timeless records now in this period, but they're not going to be timeless records in, like, 2 years or 5 years, because you're going to have to constantly progress, because the sound is always constantly changing. And I think it's more of evolving and how you present yourself. And you always got to try to take risk. And a lot of the risks may not work out, but that's the problems with making music, is you don't have any guarantee that it's going to work out. And risks are risks. And I think it doesn't really matter if it does work out or not, because you're still going to have a fan base that likes you for previous work, even if your newest work isn't going to work out. Tyler, Creator, released Cherry Bomb, and people didn't stop listening, and I think that's the continuous thing. I think David Bowie's a great example of this, because David Bowie, throughout his entire career, one of the reasons he was so almost so spectacular and almost infamous in the sense at times, is because he constantly kept on pushing his career forward through various different styles and very different sounds and very different ideas and personas. Going from beginning to his career, releasing Space Oddity, to his Ziggy Stardust era, to his Berlin Trilogy era, to his, like, weird period, it's like Young Americans period, to the period where he made an African drum album, to, like, him kind of refining back to normal Bowie before coming to Black Star and doing something completely different, building himself up before completely destroying the wall again, and then finally passing on. I think Bowie and artists like Bowie show exponential growth, and I think there are some bad moments, but people are not going to remember the bad moments. How many people actually remember David Bowie's African drum album? Like, it's completely stupid, and it's like, it's not good, but it's like he took a risk with that. And people aren't going to remember the bad moments. They're going to remember the Ziggy Stardust. They're going to remember the heroes. They're going to remember the Black Stars. He took a risk in different eras and tried different things, and some of them didn't work out, but that's fine. When you take risks, not all of them are going to hit.
Yeah.
I think Gambino is currently doing that right now. Starting out his career being really adolescent, being really childish, hence his name, Childish Gambino, but really being really comedic and stupid and being extremely white. But to maturing to something more emotionless and hard and kind of otherworldly, because of the internet, switching up to funk. I think Gambino's going to have a really long career, and I'm interested to see all the various sounds he's going to touch, especially with, like, tracks like This Is America that came out recently, especially his 2 new tracks released, because I think, even though they're not really what I wanted, I think they provide different sounds, and I'm interested to see, even though I don't think they're that great, I think it's interesting to see where he goes with these ideas and where he goes with different sounds. And even though Gambino, he might be dropping the Gambino name after this next album, but I think he's going to still make music, hopefully. And I think he's going to continue to innovate. I think it's more about innovation and anything else. I think if you look at it just from an age sense, is not healthy. I think it's both sides do it, young and old. It's bad on both sides, because I think the youth complain about the old for not embracing new ideas or not being open to new ideas because they have this set idealist and how music should sound, especially hip hop heads.
They hold their legends
like
in very high regard.
Yeah, like we knew Ike B when used to work at the radio station, and he's this DJ that was heavily popular. Radio DJ was heavily popular in the '90s, and he holds his regards really tightly of what he thinks hip hop should sound, and he doesn't like any other forms of hip hop that extend that. He loves his Tribe Called Quest and his De La's and his old school hip hop, but he can't let go of anything past that. Really, he thinks his favorite modern day artists are other artists that take from that 80s 90s style hip hop, that old school hip hop, and continue it further.
I think his most recent artist that he likes is J Dilla, and that's saying a lot because that's not recent at all.
Yeah, and I think that's like a bad mantra to have, is not willing to accept other things, and that's a problem. I wanted to say the elderly because that's a contrast for the youth, but that's something old.
Get off I'd be like that.
I think that's problems like older people in music or just in hip hop have, but the youth also have their problems of just being completely stupid and being immature because they are the youth, and it's both. And their willingness to rebel, regardless of whether it's a worthwhile thing to rebel or not. A lot of times it is, but there's also the period where it just becomes stupid and to rebel against anything. I think each side has their merits and each side has their values, and I think they're both respectable in a sense, but I think even both sides can do better. And I think not only for young artists or old artists younger artists need to appreciate their elderly, but they don't need to like suck them off, if that makes sense. They don't need to basically congratulate them on everything. They need to be at least a bit respectful. Like, I think people should respect who kind of Kanye is, but they don't need to be like, he's my favorite artist or something like that. Just need to respect the legacy kind of left for everyone else. Or the same thing for even like Jay-Z, and we shut on him a bunch, but he was very influential for what he set up through Rockefeller Records, getting artists.
He pioneered a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I think it comes to the terms where you got to be grateful for that, but you don't have to. You can still talk about Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce and say that's stupid, because you don't need to make everything they do look good. You just need to respect them for what they've actually done.
Yeah.
And I think that's another problem where the youth has, but the old people also have the problem of artists like Lil Yachty and even like Lil Pump, and like as stupid as they sound, kind of respecting what they are doing, because they are doing something that like isn't normal and isn't going to create like this long-lasting legacy as someone like Jay-Z or Kanye, but it is going to create a new sound that we're going through, or a new era of trap, or a new age of like SoundCloud these SoundCloud rappers creating a new wave of music. And I think it's something that may, with different eras, they have this problem. Like, I think the 90s with new wave, like, it's kind of hard to, with all these different eras, it's kind of hard to respect it because it's just something. Did I say new wave? I meant to say new metal.
You should have said ska.
Ska too. But like, I think it's just like, you need to respect the artist for at least trying new things, and even though if they're failing, but you don't need to like it. Like, I'm not saying everyone should like Lil Yachty or Lil Pump, but that you should at least like respect them that they are trying something new.
Yeah.
And at least for this time period we're currently in, and I know it may sound stupid, but like, I think we get better as, I think society gets better when everyone appreciates everyone and attempts to see the best in everyone. And I think that works better out in music if artists, I think to be the best artist, you kind of have to be the most well-tuned ear, I guess, in a sense, and be balanced and be able to respect other artists for the sounds they are creating. And I think that's what matters. And it's not really an age gap, but it's more of society as a whole and how everyone can do better.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I really have to say on this issue.
All right, that works for me.
And like, going back to comeback albums, I think the key to the best comeback album is something you haven't done yet, or it's been such a long gap that you return to it And I think as long as it's new material that isn't like Dr. Octagon with Moose Bumps, that didn't work because that was just Dr. Octagon. Like, it wasn't really different. But as long as you innovate, I think you have to at least innovate on that sound a little bit to the initial sound. If you want to do like a full comeback album, like a return to the sound, that's fine, but you at least have to innovate on that sound a little bit to make it sound different, so it doesn't sound like just a repeat.
I think there's different ways to do it.
Yeah,
because
but
like Tribe Called Quest didn't really change their sound; they changed a lot of their lyrics and subject matter. Yeah. Doom didn't really change his sound, but he changed his production around him.
Yeah, like minor
and the people he worked
yeah.
with. And then of course, like, you've got complete changes of sound, like De La Soul. Like, their lyrics, I think, were similar, and their kind of absurdist humor was kind of the similar. But their production was just skyrocketed on the Anonymous Nobody.
Yeah. So it's like, comeback albums either switch everything or just switch a bit so it doesn't seem like the full thing, but you at least have to innovate somewhat.
Yeah.
If you want to at least either make a return to that sound or make something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But like, comeback albums always excite me because it always like, it brings back people who at least pandered off for a bit, and they get to come back and shine, and maybe they get to relive a past glory, and you never know how far that goes. Like MC Paul Barman recently, I don't know if you can technically consider that a comeback album because it's only been like 11 years, 10 years, something like that.
Well, it's been a while. I think that yeah,
but like,
I would consider that.
And he's only like a small independent artist, but like, I think that it's nice to hear that because now that album compared to a lot of his previous work it's his magnum opus for one, but it's like in a completely different realm, and having him come back to almost be back part of the hip hop community is very interesting because I want to see where the future of that is. Almost like the old, like with comeback albums, it always almost turns like the elders of hip hop back into the youth because they are back with new ideas and new sounds, and it's always interesting. It gives them a youthful kick, which I always think
it's
is
fun. It's a good time. I love comeback albums because of that. Like,
even though I was like, Tribe Called Quest Return was very sad because Phife Dawg died, it was really fun to see like Q-Tip come back, and like even bringing on like different people like Busta Rhymes at the Grammys and stuff like that, seeing them report.
Oh, that was
like,
fun.
Like, it's nice to see them, and like when they're on SNL, they look like they're having a blast and like doing all these festivals. Like, it's nice.
When we saw De La Soul in concert,
yeah,
it looked like they were having so much fun up there.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, yeah, I think comeback albums are good for artists as long as because they give them put them back in the limelight, give them a chance to shine, and almost make them youthful in a sense, which is nice.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And if they have important things to say, then let the kids be kids. Let the kids make their music.
Let the elderly be elderly.
It's fun. It's a good time. But, yeah, I think all those points make sense. So, yeah, I think that everybody, as long as they have something to say and some sort of innovative sound, like something that they're trying to improve on. Artists constantly have to improve on themselves. It's not just a mantra for like business people or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a mantra for everybody. I think you have to constantly improve on yourself and make yourself better.
Yeah.
Live your best life every day. I think that's what artists have to do. Live their best life, make their best sound every album. And even if it doesn't always hit, at least we can appreciate that it was something different. Or at least we can appreciate that they tried something new.
And I think it's just like, it goes on the basics, like, why would you take like a beginner's guitar class after you already learned how to play guitar? Like, you need to constantly challenge yourself with different things. And if you're not constantly challenging yourself, what's the point, I guess?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be in a rut.
You don't just go in there to like show everybody up.
Yeah.
In your guitar class, you go in
to become a better guitarist.
Yeah, to be better, basically. So take more advanced classes. Take more advanced classes,
Cool Keith.
Cool Keith.
Take
some quantum physics or something.
Yeah. Take how to get another wig 101. This time you should get an afro. Ooh. Just a blonde afro.
With the same skull mask.
Yeah. Okay, I think that kind of wraps it up for this week's episode of the Anthony and Todd Show. It's been a quick one, but like we didn't really have much to talk about this week. But next week we got a good idea of what we're gonna do. I'm really excited for next week's episode. It's really important to me. I think if we're gonna continue with this idea, it's gonna be good. So watch out for next week's episode.
Oh my.
Until next time, guys, make sure you like our Facebook page, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube, join our Discord, and talk to us about music. And we're looking for lifelong friendship.
Lifelong friendships only on Discord. Also, we don't only talk about music. We very rarely talk about music.
Sometimes we talk about Crushers. Sometimes Samuel Put talks about where his cassette is that Trevor bought for him.
It's not in yet. I will tell you that.
Did it tell you when it was going to ship?
No, because I just pre-ordered it.
They didn't like say when it was around when it was going to ship.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
You get it when you get it. And I was like,
I gotta go get it.
MC Ride.
Just said I gotta go get it.
It's like ready for pickup in LA. I'm like, okay. Whatever you say, MC Ride.
I thought MC Ride was just gonna drive it to your house personally.
I thought he was too. And it's Subaru.
Instead of ringing the doorbell or knocking, you just go. It's just like, oh.
He just stands at your door and screams. And then breaks your glass to make a beat.
And if you want to support the show financially with money or maybe some snacks, there's a link down in the description for watching on YouTube to donate to our PayPal so we can afford wrap snacks that taste like cardboard. Do you think wrap snacks can survive the apocalypse? Do you think they have a high shelf life because they are just cardboard?
I don't know.
Okay. And if you like our theme songs produced by our big friend. Our intro song's called Galaxy. Our outro song's called Rock Solve Land. Links down in the description if you're watching on YouTube. This has been episode 46 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call
Please donate to our GoFundMe to get Cool Keith out of the retirement home.
We gotta go get him. We gotta go get him.
We gotta go get him.
Till next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I've been Trevor.
And see you, boys.
See you guys.